Nekazane-san sits next to him in class, fast asleep on her desk. Minato Sino notes that she is always sleeping. The teacher shouts at Nekazane, telling her to stop sleeping in class. His attempt to wake her with a rolled-up paper proves futile. She continues to snooze peacefully. Sino thinks about how he's never seen his new neighbor's face, finding her sleeping habit remarkable. The teacher calls out to Sino. Since Sino sits next to Nekazane, the teacher asks him to take on the responsibility of reminding her. He explains that she is a very deep sleeper and needs a shout now and then. Sino is internally horrified at the thought of having to remind someone. He recalls being very timid ever since he was a young child. Even now, he still hasn't had a proper conversation with any of his classmates. To him, the task of reminding a girl feels like an impossibly high bar. The teacher gives him a supportive pat on the shoulder, entrusting him with the job. Sino reluctantly agrees. Takada laughs over the phone, asking if Sino is seriously stressing over such a thing. He finds it hilarious that his prediction about Sino struggling in high school came true so perfectly. He then asks how Sino's attempt at a high school debut turned out. Sino recalls his attempt to change his image with hair wax and contact lenses. He confesses that he got so nervous he felt sick and had to go to the nurse's room. While Takada laughs uncontrollably, Sino laments that all the other classmates have already formed their own groups. Still chuckling, Takada tells him it will be fine and advises him to make a friend or two. He reminds Sino that his high school life is just beginning. Sino meekly agrees. Sino thanks Takada for calling and agrees to treat him to a meat bun next time. Feeling motivated, he resolves to do his best to make a friend. He opens the classroom door, only to be met with a room full of empty desks. He suddenly recalls that they have to move to a different classroom for the next period. He approaches Nekazane's desk. He thinks to himself that she'll be late if she continues sleeping. He calls out her name, telling her they need to hurry to the next classroom. While he's trying to wake her, she suddenly wraps her arms around him. Sino is utterly baffled by her actions. He is stunned and confused. She finally stirs and looks up at him. Sino realizes this is the first time he's ever seen her face. Still half asleep, she grabs him and calls out the name Masamune. Then just as suddenly, she collapses back onto her desk. Sino is left standing in shock as she immediately starts snoring. Overwhelmed and blushing furiously, Sino flees the room. He finds himself outside the study room, trying to process what happened. He frantically tries to figure out what just happened and who Masamune Shiratama could be. He doodles a small, simple drawing of what a samurai named Masamune Shiratama might look like. Still completely bewildered, he peeks back into the empty classroom. In the end, Nekazane's desk remained empty for the rest of the day. Sino realizes she went home and is left wondering what her deal is. His thoughts are interrupted when he spots a sign for a cat cafe on the second floor of a nearby building. He wonders why he's never noticed the cat cafe before. As he walks up the stairs, a voice calls out to him. He is stunned to see Nekazane standing there. He stammers her name in disbelief. She asks if he is interested in visiting the cafe. He gets pulled along by the flow of the conversation and enters the cafe. As cats gather around him, he thinks that he has never seen her behave this way before. He briefly wonders if he has mistaken her for someone else. She places a can of cocoa on his table, and he tells her he didn't order it. She leans in close to him, asking why he said her name. She stands up and directly asks who he is and why he knows her name. He explains that it's because they are in the same class and sit next to each other. She seems to accept his explanation. She picks up a nearby cat, calling it Masamune and asking if it had a snack, which confuses Sino. She holds the cat close, hugging and sniffing it. Sino has a sudden realization, remembering her doing the exact same thing to him. He figures out that when she was half asleep, she must have thought he was the cat. She makes the bold statement that cats are noble creatures, superior to humans. She introduces the cat in her arms as Masamune and points out another naughty one named Shiratama. She also points out a third cat, Kinako, who she says throws up a lot. Sino comments that taking care of them must be a lot of work. She replies that it is not at all difficult, smiling softly at the cat in her arms. Sino is struck by her expression, realizing he never knew she could look like that. His heart thumps in his chest as he makes a decision. She asks him not to tell anyone that she works there. As she turns to go, he calls out to her to wait. He stops her, internally struggling with what to say. She turns back and asks what he wants. He awkwardly introduces himself as Minato Sino. His heart pounds as he wonders why he just gave a self-introduction. Nekazane pauses for a moment. She points to the can of cocoa on the table. A small smile appears on her face. She tells him to consider it a hush fee, addressing him as seat neighbor Kun. Sino is left slightly flustered by her unexpected playfulness. Later that night, he receives another call from Takada. Sino asks him if there is a trick to getting along with people so easily. Takada is intrigued, realizing the timid Sino must be interested in someone. Sino describes her as someone who likes cats, acts like a cat and has big eyes. Takada confirms that he is, in fact, talking about a girl. He adds that while she's usually expressionless, she sometimes shows a very kind and gentle side. He confesses that he has a feeling he wants to know her more and hopes they can become friends. Takada bluntly tells him that what he's describing sounds more like love. Sino gets flustered, but Takada decides it's better to let him realize it on his own. He then tells Sino the first thing he needs to do. The next morning, Sino slides open the classroom door. Nekazane is standing near the entrance. He walks past her toward his desk. He turns and calls out her name. He gives her an enthusiastic good morning. She asks who he is, so he reintroduces himself. After a moment of thought, she remembers him from yesterday, much to his relief. Takada's advice from the previous night was simple. First of all, he needed to say hi. He had told Sino that anything would do, as long as he made a conversation. Sino had thought that showing her his drawing might be a good way to start talking. His heart hammers in his chest as he steels his resolve, knowing he has to take action. He thrusts the drawing toward her, yelling that he wanted to show her this. She looks at his drawing with an unimpressed gaze and calls it ugly. Stunned into silence, he can only stand there. Defeated, he sits down in his chair. As Nekazane once again falls asleep, Sino sits in gloomy silence, wondering if becoming friends is even possible. A friend comments that while Sino's new look with contact lenses is a big change, something still feels missing. He suggests opening the front of his jacket, but Sino worries it will make him look like a delinquent. Sino nervously glances at other students who have their jackets open for the entrance ceremony. He feels incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. Minato Sino's classmate, Nekazane-san, sleeps at her desk next to him. Another student tries to wake her up, pointing out that she's always sleeping, but she doesn't stir. Sino looks on with a gentle smile, reaffirming his desire to become friends with her. Sino thinks about how little he knows about Nekazane, who is still sleeping at her desk. He stops in his tracks, shocked by the thought that he has no idea what her first name is. He wonders how he can find out her name, and if it was impolite to interact with her before. Sino cringes at the thought of asking her for her first name, convinced there is no way he could do it. He suddenly remembers the class journal, realizing it might hold the answer. He eagerly opens the journal, but is shocked to see she only wrote her surname. He reads her very brief comment and thinks she will surely get in trouble for it. He thinks that if he just continues his normal life, a chance to learn her first name should appear. However, he quickly concludes that such a chance is unlikely to present itself. Walking home, he muses that people don't often use first names. Suddenly, a cat appears and meows at him, catching his attention. Sino cautiously approaches the cat, wondering if it's a stray. He is pleased to find that the cat is friendly and allows him to pet it. He considers a few names before deciding to call it Mugi. The cat meows back, startling Sino with its apparent response. Sino calls the cat Mugi again, impressed by its reaction. He turns to find Nekazane standing there, who notes that the cat is answering him. Sino is shaken by her sudden arrival, thinking she must be a ninja since he didn't hear her approach. Nekazane tells the confused Sino that the animal is a Sakura cat. She clarifies that this means people in the neighborhood probably look after it. Nekazane shows Sino the cat's ear, which is shaped like a cherry blossom petal. Sino expresses concern about the cut, but Nekazane assures him it does not hurt. She explains the mark signifies that the cat has been spayed or neutered. She adds that this is done to control the stray population and prevent animals from being put down. Nekazane finds the idea of regulating the cat population strange, and Sino notes her tendency for grand statements. She glances at him and confirms that he just used the name, Mugi. Sino explains that he just came up with the name himself. He sheepishly asks if she thinks the name is weird. Nekazane straightforwardly agrees that it is kind of weird. Sino is visibly stunned by her blunt response. He quietly acknowledges her point, feeling a little dejected. Nekazane explains that Mugi is her first name, which makes it feel like he is calling her. Horrified, Sino immediately apologizes. He worries that he made her feel awkward, but she insists it was not a big deal. She tells Sino she is simply not accustomed to being called by her first name, as he realizes what he's just learned. The cat suddenly dashes away. Sino watches it go, a little disappointed. Mugi gets up and asks if he is heading home too, and he confirms. Sino is glad to have learned more about her, but he feels she seems completely uninterested in him. He looks down, feeling dejected. As Mugi leaves, she turns and says goodbye to Sino, using his name and leaving him stunned. Mugi turns back and asks if she made a mistake with his name, confirming if he is Minato Sino. A flustered but happy Sino confirms she got it right, while Mugi notes that his voice is cracking. He watches her leave, touched by the fact that she remembered his name. Later that evening, someone at the dinner table asks Minato why he's in such a good mood. Minato Sino wants to befriend his seat neighbor, Mugi Nekazane. However, he is unsure of how to start a conversation with her. Furthermore, Nekazane is always sleeping at her desk. This makes it difficult for Sino to find the right time to talk to her. He notices that for once she is awake. She appears to be watching something on her phone. Sino sees her headphones and realizes this is his chance to talk to her. He nervously blurts out a question, asking if she's watching a video. Mugi turns to him and confirms that she is. With that, the conversation abruptly ends. Sino mentally pleads for help from his friend Takada, an advisor in communication skills. He is happy that she seems willing to continue the conversation. He asks what she's watching, guessing it must be cat videos. Mugi reveals that she's watching a video of a high-pressure washer, leaving Sino confused. He wonders why she would enjoy watching videos of dirty places being cleaned. Since she seems willing to talk, he feels he must say something but struggles for a comment. Sino awkwardly comments that her choice of video is rare. She simply agrees. That night, Sino gets a call from his friend Takada. Takada tries to ask him about something that happened the other day. He realizes Sino is distracted and asks if he's watching something. Sino explains that he's watching a video about cleaning a dirty wall with a high-pressure washer, much to Takada's confusion. He tries to explain that you can get hooked on watching repetitive videos. When Takada asks how long he's been watching, Sino admits it's been about 4 hours, prompting his friend to question his sanity. Takada worries that high school is proving too tough for Sino, but Sino denies it. Realizing the topic, Takada eagerly asks how things went with the girl they talked about before. Sino gloomily admits that the conversation was a complete failure. He explains that he only started watching the videos because he saw Mugi watching something similar at school. Sino explains that he thought if he started watching those videos too, he might have a better chance of talking with her next time, adding that he was also curious. Takada earnestly tells Sino that he's rooting for him from the bottom of his heart. Takada advises him not to waste too much time on it. The next day, Sino musters his courage and wishes Nekazane a good morning. She returns the greeting. Sino tells Mugi that he checked out the video she was watching. He explains his fascination with how it shows things becoming beautiful and how one could watch it forever. He enthusiastically asks if she also finds it fascinating. Mugi bluntly tells him that is not the case. She clarifies that she only watched it out of curiosity and did not find it that interesting. She then shows him a cat video, stating that watching cats is far more entertaining, leaving Sino speechless. Sino feels he has once again said the wrong thing and wishes he could find a hole to crawl into. Suddenly, Mugi gets very close to him. She tells him to look at the video, pointing out that it is Shiratama, the cat from before. She unexpectedly shoves one of her earbuds into his ear. Apologizing for forgetting to turn on the sound, she asks if he can hear it now. Sino is startled and flustered by her sudden proximity. His heart pounds so hard he can't hear the video, and Mugi asks if he's okay. As Mugi stifles a laugh, Sino wonders if her sense of personal distance is a bit off. With a smile, Mugi tells him to check out the video, asking if he thinks the cat looks adorable. Sino stammers out an agreement. In art class, the students are instructed to draw portraits of their seat neighbors. Minato Sino is paired up with Mugi Nekazane. They both express that they are looking forward to it. As Sino begins to draw, he finds it nerve-wracking to stare at someone's face so closely. He admires Mugi's long eyelashes. Sino realizes with a start that she isn't posing, she's simply fallen asleep. Panicking, Sino tries to wake Nekazane. He worries he'll have to submit a drawing of her sleeping. When she stirs, she drowsily suggests he just draw her awake from his imagination. Sino protests that a drawing from imagination would look strange. Relenting slightly, Mugi agrees to stay awake for just 3 minutes, instructing him to memorize her face. Sino is stunned by the condition, realizing that her not sleeping isn't an option. Mugi sits down to pose, announcing that Sino's 3 minutes are starting now and telling him to take a good look and remember her face. Sino feels overwhelmed by the pressure of having to stare at her so intently. He lets out an exasperated sigh. Before the 3 minutes are even up, Mugi starts dozing off again. Sino calls out to her, pointing out that it hasn't been 3 minutes. She apologizes, explaining that her consciousness just drifts away on its own, leaving Sino amazed. Just then, the teacher announces it's time to switch partners. It's now Mugi's turn to draw, and she fixes Sino with an intense, unblinking stare. She tells him not to move so she can finish quickly and get back to sleep. Under Mugi's unwavering gaze, Sino grows increasingly nervous. He becomes completely flustered, unable to hold her stare. Sino finally lets out a breath he was holding, and Mugi asks if he's okay. He apologizes, saying he held his breath for a second. He makes an awkward excuse, comparing the situation to a scene from a movie, which Mugi doesn't seem to understand. As she continues to draw, Mugi suddenly points out Sino has a mole. She specifies that he has one near his right eye and on his neck. Surprised by her observation, Sino confirms they've been there his whole life. Mugi remarks that it's the first time she has ever noticed them. Sino reflects on what a small detail it is. While it's a small detail, the fact that Mugi was paying close enough attention to notice his moles makes Sino feel a little happy. He immediately feels a bit self-conscious for feeling happy about it. Looking back at Mugi, he again notices her long eyelashes. He finds himself wishing he could get to know her better. After class, looking at their finished portraits, Sino notes his reasonable depiction of Mugi and her simplistic drawing of him. As Mugi dozes nearby, he realizes there is still so much he doesn't know about her. The scene is set at the rescue cat cafe Mew. A small white cat sniffs Mugi's face. A coworker asks Mugi if she has handed out the snacks, to which she confirms she has, all while the cat continues to tickle her. The cat continues licking Mugi's face. Mugi looks on with a puzzled expression as the cat continues its affectionate assault. Sino thinks about how it's been a week since he started greeting Nekazane. He recalls how he never initiated conversations with anyone in middle school. While this might seem like a small thing, for Sino, it's a significant step forward. He cheerfully greets Nekazane as he arrives at his desk. Nekazane returns his greeting with a quiet, hesitant response. Sino is taken aback by her unusual reaction. Sino watches Nekazane by the window, wondering what's wrong with her. He is jolted out of his thoughts when she suddenly says his name. Sino is flustered, wondering what this is about, as she asks him to be honest. Nekazane asks him directly if he has any thoughts about her. Nekazane confirms her question, asking if he has any thoughts about her. Sino nervously replies that he thought it would be nice if they could talk more. Acknowledging his request might be sudden, he bows and asks her to be his friend. Sino immediately regrets his words, imagining his own rejection. Nekazane feels the same way, finding his request disgusting and anticipating rejecting him. She stares at him, internally struggling with what to say. Sino offers a strange observation, noting that she sleeps a lot in class, which seems healthy. Covered in question marks, a confused Nekazane simply says she understands. He recalls their conversation and notes that she's been sleeping as usual since. Thinking the sunlight must be too bright for her, he reaches over to close the curtains. Nekazane wakes up just as Sino stands over her. He awkwardly explains that he was just closing the curtains. Nekazane quietly says she sees. She then moves her entire desk away from his. After school, Sino flops onto his bed, exhausted. Sino is crushed, believing he was completely rejected. He agonizes over whether moving her desk was her way of saying she can't stand him. He lies awake, wondering what he did wrong. He tries to make sense of it, remembering she was fine up until yesterday. He groans in frustration and despair. The thought that he might have unknowingly hurt her sends a shiver down his spine. He feels he should apologize, but is troubled by the fact that he doesn't know what for. Sino looks downcast, weighed down by his worries. He wonders how he is even supposed to face her the next day. Momoka asks Mugi about the sweat wipes, wondering if it's because it's hot. Momoka realizes Mugi is worried about what happened the other day. She recalls the time when the cat Shiratama would not stop licking Mugi. Mugi explains her worry that the cat thought she smelled bad because of sweat. Momoka reassures her that's not the case and that the cat is just showing its love. She then calls out Mugi's name, having noticed something. She asks Mugi if there is a stain on her shirt. Mugi has a moment of realization, wondering if the cat was licking that specific spot. Apologizing, Momoka leans in to inspect the stain. She recognizes the faint smell of a churu treat, figuring it got on her shirt while feeding the cat. Mugi is surprised by the discovery. Mugi is a little mortified that she smelled like the cat's food. Her coworker tells her it's okay and that no one noticed. The scene shifts to the next day at school as Sino enters the classroom. He sees Nekazane at her desk and calls out to her. Sino takes a deep breath, preparing to greet her. He looks nervous, still worried about her reaction. He approaches her desk and pulls out his chair. He greets her. Nekazane turns around in her seat, surprising him. She greets him first, leaving him to stammer out his own greeting in response. Sino is shocked, as this is the first time she has greeted him first. Sino peeks over and guesses she's watching cat videos again. She catches him staring, which makes her jump. Embarrassed, Sino asks if she wants to watch the videos too. She asks if she can, and he says yes. She moves closer to him, tapping on her phone. Sino is overwhelmed by her proximity, thinking she's too close. She shows him a cute photo of her cat, but he's too flustered to focus. He glances at her, thinking she seems the same as always. She explains the photo is of her cat Ohagi sleeping hilariously, and Sino agrees. Sino breathes a sigh of relief, happy that he wasn't disliked after all. Nekazane shows him another photo, commenting on her cat's weird sleeping positions. Sino seems to float with happiness. They both notice a smell in the classroom. They identify the source as a classmate eating French fries. Sino smiles, realizing it's already noon. Nekazane once again moves her desk away from his. Sino can only agree with her action, while Nekazane hides her face. Later at home, Sino is back on his bed, utterly confused and wondering why this keeps happening. Minato Sino greets Mugi Nekazane. She quietly returns his greeting. He pulls out the chair at the desk next to hers. Sino settles into his seat beside Nekazane. Sino clenches his fist, thinking how awkward the situation feels. He's still troubled by what happened last time, though he notes she seems to be acting normal. He glances over, worrying that she might be thinking she can't stand being near him. He wants to be friends with her, but he hesitates. He's scared of how she sees him. Sino desperately wishes he could understand what's on her mind. Sino worries about their group's theme overlapping with others. The group discusses their project. He feels awkward, having no idea when to chime in. Suddenly, a classmate puts him on the spot by asking for his thoughts. Flustered, Sino feels the pressure to come up with a good idea. Another group member's idea is quickly dismissed. Nekazane appears to be sulking. Sino sees her expression and thinks she must be upset that the discussion isn't progressing. He realizes she wasn't upset at all, just holding back a yawn. A classmate asks Nekazane for her ideas. Nekazane says she's fine with any topic, as long as it isn't too troublesome. The group agrees they need to organize their content before the next class. The group leader asks who is available to work after school. Two of the members say they have other plans. Sino remembers that a book he reserved is now available. Seeing no one else is free, Sino volunteers to take care of it. Sino tells his classmate not to worry about it. After the others leave, he settles in to start the work. He quickly realizes the amount of work piled up is too much for one person. Sino begins to worry if he can finish it all in one day. Nekazane quietly observes him from the doorway. Sino looks up, surprised to see Nekazane. She apologizes, saying she ended up leaving all the work to him. Flustered, he insists it's fine since he took it upon himself. Nekazane asks if he is really sure he is okay doing it alone. Sino smiles and confirms that he is. Nekazane wishes him luck with the work. Sino sighs, thinking the awkward encounter is over. He gets back to work, still alone at his desk. He then realizes Nekazane hasn't left the classroom. Sino asks why she is still here, and she replies that she has time. She pulls a chair up to his desk, explaining that she needs to copy the notes. The two of them work together in the otherwise empty classroom. Sino asks if she is sure she wants to stay. She confirms, saying her work starts at 5. She hesitates for a moment before speaking again. She asks if he hates being with her. Sino looks down, troubled by her question. Nekazane waits for his answer. Nekazane frankly states that she would rather go home. Sino is stunned by her honest response. She continues, however, that she doesn't feel it's right to leave him to do it alone. Nekazane asks if he agrees that it's too much work for one person. Sino agrees and says he's glad she stayed. Nekazane says she thinks they can manage it together and suggests they do their best. Sino begins to explain his feelings. He confesses he thought she didn't like him because she kept her distance. Nekazane is surprised by his confession. She clarifies that it was her own issue. Nekazane reassures him that it wasn't because she disliked him at all. Sino looks up, his expression softening with relief. Nekazane sees on the clock that it's time for her to go. She offers to take half of the assignment to work on at home. Sino tries to insist that she's already helped enough. She reaches out with her phone. Nekazane offers him her contact information. She explains she might have questions while working on it at home. Sino agrees to exchange contact information. They add each other as friends on their phones. He asks about her profile icon, trying to guess the cat's name. Sino works on the assignment at his desk. He replays Nekazane's reassurance in his mind. He thinks to himself that she doesn't dislike him after all. His phone buzzes with a notification. His heart pounds as he wonders if the message is from Nekazane. He sees the notification is just a new product announcement from a store. Completely disappointed, he falls onto his bed. He thinks that he doesn't know if they can be called friends yet. Looking at her contact info, however, he feels like he has made a little progress. Sino laments that she didn't text and tells himself to stop expecting anything. Elsewhere, Nekazane is stuck on a part of the assignment. She pulls out her phone, considering asking him for help. She decides not to call, thinking it is too late. In class, Minato Sino observes his classmate, Mugi Nekazane, who sits at the desk next to his. Just like many other days, she's fast asleep. He lands in, curious to see her sleeping face. He immediately regrets his action, feeling sorry for trying to peek. Sino's primary motivation is a simple one. He truly wants to become her friend. Sino recalls Nekazane's help from the other day and wants to thank her. He resolves to wait until she wakes up to talk to her. To his dismay, class ends and she hasn't stirred at all. Nekazane finally wakes up, looking dazed. Sino musters his courage to finally speak to her. However, she abruptly stands and announces she's in a rush to get to work. She dashes out, leaving Sino alone in the now empty classroom. He composes a text message to thank her for helping with the assignment. He worries that using such formal language might be awkward, since it's their first time texting. After much hesitation, he finally sends the message. A moment later, he hears a phone chime from Nekazane's desk. He sees the notification for the very text he just sent. He quickly realizes that it must be her phone. Sino grabs the phone and runs to catch up with her. He arrives at the school gate out of breath, realizing he didn't make it in time. He then remembers that she said she was going to work. His search leads him to a place called Rescue Cat Cafe Mew. He carefully opens the door and looks inside but sees no one. A staff member advises him to wait before coming in so the cats do not run out. Sino apologizes, but she smiles and tells him not to worry. Sino explains that he only came to deliver an item Nekazane forgot. He specifies that she left her phone behind. Momoka tells him that Mugi is out shopping at the moment, but will return shortly. With a warm smile, Momoka invites him to relax inside while he waits. Sino sits down, feeling a bit out of place in the cat cafe. A cat approaches him and settles onto his lap, making him feel more at ease. Momoka sits down close to Sino. She comments on one of the cats, Masamune, mentioning that he used to dislike people. She then turns the conversation to him, asking how he knows Mugi. Sino clarifies that he and Mugi are just classmates. Momoka realizes this means they are in the same grade. Sino mentions how it is easy to get lost in high school. Momoka agrees, laughing as she recalls a similar experience. Momoka suggests that since they are the same age, there's no need for polite formalities and introduces herself as Momoka Yuzujihara. He introduces himself in return as Minato Sino. Sino thinks to himself that Yuzujihara seems like a kind person. Behind her smile, Momoka's mind is racing with suspicion. She questions his claim of being just a classmate and wonders how he found the cafe. She has never heard Mugi talk about guys, which leads her to worry that he might be a stalker. She decides she will chase him away if he turns out to be a bad bug, threatening her friend. Momoka starts her interrogation, asking if he talks to Mugi often or hangs out with her. Sino quickly denies any private hangouts. He adds, however, that since they sit next to each other, they do things together in class quite often. He lists examples like group studies and art classes as Momoka listens. Momoka asserts her closer relationship with Mugi, mentioning they went to middle school together and ate lunch almost every day. Sino acknowledges their close bond and she smugly agrees. But she then admits that, despite their history, there are many things she doesn't know about Mugi. Sino says that he thinks Mugi is a very nice person. He confesses that he truly wants to become friends with her. His genuine desire leaves Momoka completely baffled. Mugi arrives and is surprised to see Sino at the cafe. Momoka cheerfully welcomes her back. Mugi asks why he's there, and Momoka explains he's returning something she forgot. Sino holds out her phone, telling her she left it behind. Mugi takes her phone, notices a new text, and thanks him as his heart thumps in his chest. She reads the message he sent thanking her for helping with the assignment. Sino watches nervously as the two girls look at the phone. Mugi looks up at Sino and tells him it was no trouble at all. Sino can only manage a flustered sound in response. Blushing, Sino manages to agree with her. Momoka is shocked, recognizing the expression on his face as one of love. With a bright smile, Momoka announces that she will be rooting for him to become friends with Mugi. While Sino is touched by her apparent support, Momoka privately decides to keep watching him for now. Minato Sino recalls Momoka Yuzujihara's supportive words, thinking to himself that she is a very nice person. He decides that since he's made up his mind, he should do his best to change himself in high school. His main goal is simple, he wants to be able to talk to people more. Sino glances at Mugi Nekazane, the girl sitting in front of him, who is fast asleep on her desk. He notices her back is covered in what appears to be fine, light-colored hair. He holds his book, taking a second look. Sino rubs his eyes, trying to get a clearer view. Another student stands up in class. A closer look confirms his suspicion. Sino realizes with a shock that there is a ton of cat hair on her. Sino concludes the hairs must be from a cat, noting how they shine in the sunlight. He's amazed by the sheer quantity, thinking it looks like she rolled around on a fur coat dozens of times. As the teacher begins the lesson, Sino wonders what could have possibly happened, imagining her being swarmed by cats. The teacher asks Nekazane if the hair is from her house cat, causing Sino to panic. He worries that things might turn out badly for her, imagining the teacher telling her to quit her part-time job. He leans forward, whispering for Nekazane to please wake up. Nekazane lifts her head slightly, her eyes barely open as she glances back at him. Sino continues trying to wake her from his desk. Sino's heart pounds as he realizes she's awake and tries to warn her about her clothes. She finally seems to notice something is amiss. However, she just pulls her hood over her head, looking confused. Just like that, Nekazane falls back asleep. After class, a classmate notes that at least the teacher didn't find out, while Sino feels he can't just leave her alone. He tries again to get her attention, telling her about the cat hair on her back. This time, she seems to understand. Nekazane vigorously shakes her hoodie to get the hair off, a method Sino finds quite bold. Sino stands up, startled by her actions. He grabs a broom and dustpan to help clean up the mess, while another student opens a window. She thanks him with a smile. As they finish cleaning, Sino asks how all the hair got stuck to her. She begins to explain that it happened after he left the cafe the previous day. In a flashback, she remembers a cat dragging her hoodie away while another bit onto the hood. She recalls how the cat, Masamune, rolled all over her hoodie. The cat continued to roll and rustle on the garment. She took a picture of the cute moment with her phone. She explains that the cat kept snuggling it until closing time, and Sino says he understands. She shows Sino the photos on her phone, and he thinks she looks very happy in them. Nekazane then mentions there is still some hair on her back, just below her neck, and asks him where it is. He gives her directions and she scratches the spot. The interaction leaves Sino feeling a bit awkward. Sino thinks it would be faster if he helped her, but he knows she doesn't like being touched. Despite this, the sight of the stray hairs is really bugging him. As he hesitates, Nekazane turns to him with a questioning look. Nekazane reaches out and carefully picks something off Sino's jacket, telling him that there was one on him too. She thanks him and explains it must have gotten on him while he was cleaning. She holds it up, identifying it as Masamune's whisker. The sudden closeness makes Sino flustered. Nekazane asks if his stomach hurts, but he quickly insists he's fine. Mugi Nekazane scrolls through the social media page for the rescue cat Cafe Mew. She sees an update about a cat named Sock being mischievous again. The photo makes her chuckle softly to herself. A classmate approaches from behind and wishes her a good morning. Minato Sino stands by her desk, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Mugi looks up from her phone, surprised by his presence. Sino greets Mugi as he takes his seat next to her. Mugi, looking at her phone, figures a post full of emojis must be from her friend Momo. She lets out a big yawn while Sino looks on. His mind flashes back to a distressing phone call from his friend Takada that made him want to escape. Takada had asked Sino how things were progressing with Mugi. Sino found it difficult to answer, unsure if they could even become friends. He confided in Takada that while he did not think she disliked him, her sense of distance could be strange. Sino started to explain that she sometimes gets extremely close. Takada suggested that getting close is a sign of interest, a possibility Sino hadn't considered. Sino countered this by recalling times Mugi seemed to be in a rush to leave, which made him think she was not interested. Sino argued that it felt more like she had absolutely no concern for him. Takada found her behavior interesting, comparing her sense of personal space to that of a cat. Understanding the situation, Takada announced it was time for Sino to undergo a makeover that would be impossible to ignore. Sino imagined Mugi reacting negatively, thinking he was a creep for suddenly trying to act cool. Takada reasoned that a dramatic change in appearance would guarantee a reaction from her. Sino inwardly curses Takada, remembering his friend's teasing suggestion. Despite his reservations, he hopes this change will finally make her notice him. Sino sits anxiously at his desk, having changed his hairstyle. Sino waits expectantly, but Mugi seems completely unaware of his new look. As the teacher begins talking, Mugi puts her head down on her desk, still not looking his way. He is utterly defeated by the fact that she did not notice him at all. Feeling deeply embarrassed, he wonders what he was even trying to accomplish. He looks in the mirror, thinking the hairstyle did not suit him to begin with. He feels that despite trying to improve his clothes and hairstyle, he still lacks confidence. He can't help but wish he were better at talking to people. Frustrated with himself, he tries to shake off his pessimistic thoughts. He wonders how he can get her to notice him. Sighing, Sino decides to head back to class. On his way, he feels a sudden irritation in his eye. He stops, wincing in discomfort, as he tries to figure out what's wrong. As Sino returns to his desk, Mugi is still on her phone. His somber demeanor as he sits down finally catches her eye. Mugi looks at him with a startled expression. He rubs his eye, wondering if it's his contact lens or if something is stuck in it. Mugi watches him, now looking concerned. He lets out a groan of frustration, unable to relieve the irritation. Mugi thinks he seems different than usual and wonders if he might be angry. Distracted by his eye, Sino accidentally knocks his eraser off his desk. Mugi picks it up and offers it to him. He turns toward her, surprised by the gesture. Mugi is momentarily startled, like a cat with its fur on end. She offers him the eraser and apologizes. Sino looks back at her, feeling dazed. His vision has become blurry and he cannot see very well. Mugi suddenly leans in very close to inspect his eye. Sino is completely taken aback by her closeness. Mugi stares intently, trying to see what is wrong. Kawasaki, a passing classmate, is startled by their proximity. Sino finally understands that she was telling him he had dropped his eraser. He lets out a sound of realization. He quickly thanks her and takes the eraser. Later, Mugi is still flustered by the encounter with Sino. She explains to her coworker that Sino's closeness made her feel strange, eliciting a shocked reaction. As heavy rain falls after school, Minato Sino stands at the entrance, caught without an umbrella. He wonders what he should do, considering just waiting for the rain to let up. He then notices his classmate, Mugi Nekazane, is also stuck waiting, and he wonders if she forgot her umbrella too. Mugi pulls her hood over her head, looking out at the downpour. To Sino's surprise, Mugi suddenly makes a break for it, running out into the storm. He watches her go, concerned if she'll be all right. A loud clap of thunder echoes through the sky. The sudden thunderclap startles Mugi, causing her to jump back in fear right in front of the surprised Sino. After being frightened by the thunder, Mugi turns around. Soaking wet, she walks back toward the school entrance where Sino is waiting. Sino approaches Mugi and asks if she is okay. Still shaken, she admits she thought she was going to die, attributing her fear to the thunder. Sino suggests they should just wait for the rain to stop or maybe ask their parents to come pick them up. Another rumble of thunder startles Mugi again. Observing her reaction, Sino realizes Mugi is perhaps afraid of the thunder. Mugi decides to go to the nurse's office to wait out the storm. When Sino asks if she is sure that is okay, she replies that she only goes there when it's empty. Mugi looks back at Sino, adding that it should be fine as long as no one finds out. Unsure what to do, Sino decides he will just wait in the classroom. Back in the classroom, Sino listens as his classmates arrange for rides home. Eventually, he is left all alone. He tells himself there is nothing he can do to help her even if he goes in. Sino finds himself outside the nurse's office, hesitating as he thinks of Mugi. Despite his doubts, he opens the door. He enters the room and calls out to her. Startled, Mugi looks up from a cot where she's wrapped in a blanket. Sino apologizes for scaring her. Mugi points out that he has not gone home yet. Sino makes up an excuse, saying he stayed hoping to meet the school nurse, which Mugi seems to accept. As the rain continues to pour, the two sit in the quiet nurse's office. Mugi sits on the bed, wrapped tightly in her blanket. Sino sits on a nearby stool, a moment of silence between them. Sino breaks the silence, noting that the rain is not letting up. Another loud clap of thunder makes Mugi flinch in fear. She hides completely under her blanket, and Sino realizes she is not okay, asking if she is all right. Sino's suspicion is confirmed. She is indeed afraid of thunder. Mugi explains that she normally distracts herself from thunder by listening to music with earphones. However, she forgot them today, which makes the situation particularly bad for her. Hearing this, Sino offers her his earphones. He immediately hesitates, remembering that many people find sharing earphones gross. Sino quickly retracts his offer and apologizes, but Mugi surprises him by asking if she can borrow them. Stunned, Sino tells her to please wait. He pulls out a pack of alcohol disinfecting wipes. As he wipes them down, Mugi tells him he doesn't have to do that. Sino explains that fluids sometimes come out of his ears, prompting Mugi to ask with concern if he is okay. Sino then remembers he has wireless earbuds. He tells Mugi to hold on while he pairs them to his phone, which she agrees to. She puts one of the earbuds in, telling Sino she will listen to the songs he usually does. Sino gets the earbuds connected to his phone. Mugi listens to an English vocabulary lesson, much to Sino's embarrassment. She remarks that he's working hard, but then she suddenly sneezes. Sino asks if she's okay. Worried she's getting cold, he tells her to wait while he turns on the warmer. As Sino approaches the air conditioner controls, he spots a sign forbidding its use without permission. He hesitates, staring at the control panel. Mugi tells him that he is the one who will catch a cold at this rate. Sino recalls Mugi's earlier words, "It's fine if no one finds out, right?" Making a decision, he presses the button to turn on the heater. Mugi looks up at him and gives a small, appreciative chuckle. Once the rain lets up, Sino expresses his relief that they can finally go home. The two of them walk down the school hallway. Sino asks if the school nurse ever showed up. Mugi looks at him, confused by his question. She reminds him that he was the one who said he was waiting for her. Caught in his lie, Sino becomes flustered. He quickly makes an excuse about stopping by the staff room and says goodbye. As he walks away alone, he sighs, feeling that he messed up and was no help to her at all. Mugi watches him go, now questioning if he was lying. She wonders what the real reason was that he came to the nurse's office. Standing outside as the rain has cleared, Mugi reflects that the thunder wasn't as scary as usual, thinking it might be because Sino was there with her. At their workplace, Momoka Yuzujihara comments on the recent thunderstorm, mentioning how scary it was. Mugi Nekazane reassures her that she was fine because Minato Sino was with her, a revelation that shocks Momoka. Momoka presses Mugi for details, asking why Sino was there, but Mugi admits she has no idea. Momoka is baffled that Sino just happened to be there. She begins to suspect that his intentions might be more than friendly, despite what he said. While Mugi is distracted, Momoka resolves to find out what Sino is really up to. The next morning in their classroom, Sino greets Mugi. He gets her attention again. Sino asks if she is free on the upcoming Saturday, and Mugi confirms that she is. Mugi directly asks Sino if he would like to go out together. The sudden and direct invitation leaves Sino completely stunned and speechless. Mugi elaborates, suggesting they could visit the new mall by the station. She also mentions that Momoka will be joining them. Noticing Sino's continued shock, Mugi asks if he is okay. She tells him he doesn't need to give her an answer right away, just as long as he lets her know before Saturday. The idea of hanging out with Mugi consumes Sino's thoughts for the rest of the day. Still processing the invitation, Sino muses that hanging out is something friends do. He calls his friend Takada for advice. Sino explains the situation, expressing his own disbelief. Sino questions if he should even go, but Takada encourages him. Takada argues that Mugi going out of her way to invite him must mean she has some interest. He tells Sino to have more confidence in himself, though Sino remains doubtful. Takada reassures him that even if some girls are harsh judges, his point still stands. Now anxious about what to wear, Sino gets help from Takada over the phone. He proudly finds an old checkered shirt from middle school. Takada immediately and forcefully tells him not to even think about wearing it. Sino tries to craft a text message to Mugi about Saturday. He worries over the wording, but in his nervousness, he accidentally presses the call button. He panics, wondering if he can delete the call history. Before he can do anything, the call connects, and he hesitantly answers. Mugi answers the phone. Sino quickly apologizes, explaining that he called by accident. To his surprise, Mugi says it's good timing and asks if they can continue the call for a bit, and he agrees. Mugi whispers that she's using the call as an excuse to get away from her dad, who is nagging her to study. Sino overhears an angry voice in the background questioning who he is. The encounter fills Sino with terror, but Mugi explains she got away. Mugi steers the conversation back to their plans, asking if he can make it on Saturday. With Takada's words about Mugi's potential interest echoing in his mind, Sino hesitates. He then asks her if she is sure it is all right for him to go. Her confirmation causes Sino's heart to race. Mugi confirms that she wants him to come. Now full of excitement, he agrees and suggests they meet at the station at 1 p.m. Mugi admits she was worried he might decline, but Sino quickly reassures her that he is actually very happy she invited him. Mugi tells him she is glad she made the right choice in asking him. With their plans confirmed, they wish each other a good night and end the call. After hanging up, Sino reflects on their plans for the day after tomorrow. He's so excited and agitated that he finds it impossible to fall asleep. Sino worries if he will be all right on Saturday. On Saturday, Sino waits anxiously by the station fountain, worrying about his appearance. His nervous thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he hears Mugi call his name. As Sino sees Mugi's casual yet stylish outfit, he is filled with regret. Mugi greets him. He is convinced he has chosen the wrong clothes for the occasion. Mugi notices his pained expression and asks if his stomach hurts, but he denies it, internally lamenting his embarrassing attempt to dress up. He asks if it's her first time at the mall and suggests a pet shop. Mugi seems surprised, asking if he's been there before, revealing he had done thorough research beforehand. He nervously denies it and claims he just saw it online. As Mugi suggests they get going. Just then, they are interrupted by a voice calling out from behind, apologizing for keeping them waiting. Momoka arrives with a cheerful wave, explaining that curling her hair took longer than she thought. She greets Sino, noting that it has been a while since they last saw each other. At the meeting spot, Minato Sino is surprised to see Momoka use a Jihara, wondering why she is there. Momoka clarifies that she was the one who arranged the group outing for the three of them, a fact Mugi confirms. Sino has a flashback to when Mugi invited him, remembering that she did mention Momoka would be coming. He realizes with a jolt that he just wasn't paying proper attention to the details of the invitation. Momoka whispers to Sino, asking if he was expecting to be alone with Mugi. She apologizes for crashing their potential date, explaining that it was a good opportunity. She then smiles and says that she also wanted to become friends with him. Sino is surprised by her forwardness, thinking her name to himself. He concludes that she seems like a very nice person. Internally, Momoka sizes Sino up, thinking he has an airheaded vibe, like someone who would get lost in a food court. She suspects he might be feigning innocence to get closer to Mugi, while Sino is genuinely just hoping to be friends. Determined, Momoka decides she will be the one to expose his true intentions. The group begins their outing, each with different things on their mind. Entering the lively mall, Mugi notes that it's more crowded than she had anticipated. Spotting an opportunity, Momoka enthusiastically pulls Mugi towards the shops, declaring that they should make the most of their rare trip out. Momoka excitedly has Mugi try on different clothes, telling her that her style and pale skin match everything perfectly. Mugi considers a frilly dress, but imagines her cats would quickly destroy it. Meanwhile, Sino stands off to the side, feeling out of place and questioning if he should even be there. Mugi approaches him in a new outfit, thanking him for his patience, which startles him. Mugi looks at Sino with a question mark, wondering about his reaction. Sino is completely captivated by Mugi's new look, rendered speechless. She asks him what's wrong, and he can only manage a flustered denial. Momoka watches Sino's flustered state and concludes that he definitely thinks Mugi is 100% cute. Mugi says she's tired and wants a break, but Momoka insists they move on, pointing out it has only been 20 minutes. The group ends up at a pet store, looking at the cats in the window. Sino struggles with a crane game, unable to gauge the distance, so Mugi offers to help guide him. She places her hand on top of his to direct the claw, startling him with the contact. With Mugi's guidance, the claw successfully grabs a prize. Sino watches as Mugi collects the plush toy from the prize chute. Mugi beams, happily telling Sino that he got the prize for her. Sino comments that the plush cat strongly resembles Masamune. He looks at Mugi, impressed and amazed by what they accomplished. Sino offers the plush toy to Mugi, feeling it would be weird for him to keep it. Seeing this exchange, Momoka announces that she is going to the restroom for a bit. Once alone, she is overcome by how incredibly pure their interaction was. Momoka realizes that after watching Sino all day, it's strange how unaware he seems, making her question her own suspicions. She sighs, feeling like an idiot for having been so suspicious of him. She rejoins the others, apologizing for keeping them waiting. Momoka is confused when she finds Sino on the ground, asking what happened. Sino explains that he thinks he dropped one of his contact lenses. As Mugi asks if he wears contacts, Momoka internally questions if he's just an idiot. Sino tells Mugi and Momoka that they should go ahead and have fun without him, as he'll just be in the way. Momoka asks if he'll be alright since his eyesight is bad, and he reassures her that he'll rest before going home. He thanks Yuzujihara for her concern. Mugi announces that she is going to buy some drinks. Left alone with Sino, Momoka finds the situation a bit awkward. Sino apologizes for the trouble he's caused, but Momoka tells him it's fine. He adds that the important thing is that Mugi appeared to have fun. Sino comments to Momoka that she really seems to like Nekazane. Momoka asks if that's a bad thing and Sino quickly backpedals, saying that's not what he meant. Momoka shares a memory of how Mugi reached out to her during a difficult time in middle school, saying she owes who she is today to her. She muses that Mugi probably doesn't remember the incident. Sino listens intently to her story. She adds that she wonders where she would be now if she didn't have any friends. Sino relates to her feelings, explaining that he always remembers the happy moments when someone did something kind for him, even if it seemed small. He tells her that's why he feels like he can understand her. Momoka looks at him, seemingly moved by his words. Sino adds that he was genuinely happy when she said she wanted to be friends with him. He smiles warmly and offers her a sincere thank you. Sino notes that Nekazane has been gone for a while. Momoka explains that Mugi is very important to her and the number one thing she wants is for her to be happy. With that preface, she tells Sino she is going to ask him a direct question. Momoka asks Sino directly what his true feelings are for Mugi. Sino is shocked into silence by the blunt question. Momoka smiles and decides to drop the subject. She tells him to never mind. However, she clarifies that this doesn't mean she has accepted him. Sino is left confused, wondering what she means by accepting him. Alone, Sino contemplates Momoka's question about what he really thinks of Nekazane. He sits alone, processing the conversation. He looks up, momentarily thinking Yuzujihara has come back. Someone approaches and asks about the thing he said to her earlier. Thinking he is speaking to Momoka, Sino explains that Nekazane is laid back and doesn't get swept away by others, unlike himself. He trails off, suggesting that this quality is perhaps why he's drawn to her. He elaborates, saying his interest in her grew and he wanted to be friends, even checking on her during a thunderstorm because he was worried, though he thinks he overdid it. He murmurs Nekazane's name, lost in his thoughts. He concludes by saying she is someone honest with herself, a quality he thinks is incredibly nice and that he really admires, all while Mugi sits beside him, listening in shock. Sino turns, confused by the person's reaction. He calls out Yuzujihara's name, still not realizing who is there. He finally realizes something is wrong. The person next to him is Mugi, who is blushing intensely after hearing his entire confession. Sino and Mugi stare at each other as the weight of the misunderstanding settles in. Mugi lets out a small, flustered sound. Overcome with embarrassment, Sino jolts to his feet. He quickly apologizes, says it's time for him to leave and thanks her for the day. He walks away, leaving a stunned Mugi behind. Mugi sits alone, her heart racing as she holds the water bottle. The scene shifts to a quiet neighborhood at night. Lying in bed, Mugi realizes that Sino was thinking about her in his own unique way. This leads her to the conclusion that she knows nothing about him. Sino has a similar realization, thinking that it's more accurate to say he didn't even try to get to know her. Mugi rolls over in her bed. She pulls up her contact list and stops on Minato Sino's name. Mugi looks thoughtfully at her phone, clutching a pillow. She nods to herself, murmuring his name, Sino-kun. Lying in bed, Mugi thinks of his full name, Minato Sino-kun. Minato Sino reflects on his classmate, Mugi Nekazane, who sits next to him and is always sleeping. She sleeps through everything, from class changes to being scolded by the teacher. As he leaves the classroom, he thinks to himself what an interesting person she is. Looking at an image of them together with cats, Sino thinks that he wants to become friends with someone like her. A teacher asks Sino how things are going with Nekazane. He reminds Sino of his request from the start of the year to talk to her. Sino remembers that she simply won't wake up no matter what he does. He flashes back to his futile attempts to get her attention. Sino is flustered as the teacher says it's fine if the task is too difficult. The teacher notes that Nekazane seems to talk to Sino quite a lot. He encourages Sino to be friendly with her, since she isn't the type to approach people herself. Sino agrees, handing over some papers and thanking the teacher for his help. Sino mulls over the idea of being friends with Nekazane. He thinks to himself that he would like to do that too. However, he recalls that their entire Saturday outing ended on a rather awkward note, leaving him to wonder what happened. As Sino sits on the stairs, he starts to wonder where Nekazane eats her lunch. He notes that she always just wanders off somewhere. He muses that she's really like a cat. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted as Nekazane appears from above, looking down at a startled Sino from an upside-down angle. Sino's heart pounds in surprise as he comments that this spot is nice and quiet. He internally admits it's because eating alone in the lively classroom feels awkward as he still hasn't made any friends. He turns to Nekazane and asks where she usually eats her lunch. Nekazane lists places with the fewest people, and Sino questions her about the off-limits rooftop. She simply comments on how nice the wind is, dodging his question. She then takes a bite of her sandwich. Sino is surprised she's just going to eat there with him. He panics internally, wondering what he's supposed to do. They eat in shy silence for a moment. Nekazane breaks the silence by offering him some of her gummies, which he accepts with a startled thank you. Nekazane pulls out some photos of cats and begins cutting them out. Sino asks if it's for her cat cafe job, and she confirms it. She explains that it's something important they use in the shop. Sino looks on, curious about what she's doing. Nekazane asks for his opinion on one of the photos. She turns toward him, telling him to look at it. She leans in very close, insisting he look, and a flustered Sino protests her proximity but says the cat is cute. She pulls back with a smug expression, and Sino realizes she just wanted to show off her cat. Nekazane explains that she needs to finish her work by the end of the day and thought she could focus better here. Sino thinks the moment is a bit strange as she continues cutting. Sino watches her with a thoughtful gaze. Seeing how important her task is, Sino tentatively offers to help. Nekazane looks up and asks if he wants to help. He responds with an enthusiastic yes. Sino presents his finished drawing of a cat. Nekazane stares at it and asks if it's a cat, while a mortified Sino admits it looked better in his head. She had explained that a spot was blank and asked if he could draw something to fill it up. From her long silence, Sino assumes Nekazane really dislikes his drawing. He feels dejected as the school bell rings, wondering if he can even make friends this way. To his surprise, Nekazane thanks him and says she'll use the drawing. Embarrassed, Sino reaches out to stop her, pleading for her not to use his random drawing. She turns back to face him, holds out both her closed fists, and playfully challenges him to guess which hand it is in. Nekazane tells him to just pick one. After a moment of hesitation, Sino chooses a hand. She opens her palm to reveal it's empty. She tells him it's too bad, he got the wrong one, leaving him confused. As a dejected Sino looks down, Nekazane gently places something on his head. The gesture takes him completely by surprise. With a gentle smile, Nekazane calls it a consolation prize and walks away. Sino is left holding a small apple candy. He looks at the gift she left him. He thinks to himself that this one is a winner. The scene shifts to the rescue cat Cafe Mew. Momoka and Eri look at a poster seeking new owners for the cats and ask Mugi if she made it herself. One of Mugi's co-workers points out that one of the cat drawings seems a little off, and Mugi explains that Sino drew it. The co-worker comments that it's no wonder it looks strange. However, Mugi looks at the drawing with a fond chuckle, thinking that maybe it isn't so bad after all. Sino is at home looking at the apple candy, thinking it's too precious to eat because it was a gift. He stares at the small candy in his hand. His reverie is broken when a friend calls to play a game, and he snaps out of his thoughts to agree. Minato Sino is startled when a student asks if he's interested in joining the tennis club. The recruiter suggests he ask his friends to join as well. The mention of friends makes Sino anxious as he internally laments that he doesn't have any. He awkwardly accepts the flyer, agreeing to check out the club. He realizes that in his focus to make friends in class, he forgot that joining a club was also a possibility. Sino thoughtfully considers the idea of joining a club. Sino sees that Nekazane also received a leaflet for the tennis club. He approaches her and asks if she is going to join any clubs. Nekazane explains that she hasn't considered it because of her part-time job. Sino looks downcast, admitting he had hoped they could join a club together. Sino becomes flustered, realizing he's being a bit pushy, while Nekazane pulls out her phone to show him something. She shows him a picture of her cat, Masamune, who forgot to put his tongue back in. Nekazane mentions the cat was like that for 2 hours, and Sino, finding it cute, agrees to let her send him the photo. His heart pounds as he decides to ask Nekazane about her sunset icon, something he's been wondering about. He clarifies that he's asking about her Rhine icon, which is named Minato. Sino explains that he felt the default icon was lonely, so he used a photo of a sunset he took on his way home. Nekazane asks why he brought it up. She looks away, saying it was nothing and that she was simply curious. Sino is left wondering about the meaning behind their exchange. He reflects that it feels like Nekazane is talking to him more often now. Distracted, he turns his attention to the club recruitment posters on the wall, surprised by the variety. As Sino thinks about how difficult it is to choose a club, a figure appears behind him. Suddenly, he's grabbed from behind and forcefully dragged away. A girl with glasses slams a door open, shouting that she found a first year, while another person remarks it looks like a kidnapping. She gets right in Sino's face, excitedly telling him she saw him looking at their club poster. She eagerly asks if he's interested, while the other student tells her to at least introduce herself first. The girl introduces herself as Kiyomiya, the club president, and the boy as Guda, the vice president. Sino realizes he's in the photography club room after seeing all the pictures on the wall. Sino admires a photo, calling it beautiful, and Kiyomiya asks if he's interested. Guda proudly explains that he took the picture during a trip to the beach over winter break. Sino is lost in thought, looking at the photos. Kiyomiya excitedly suggests that Sino must think the club looks fun. Kiyomiya enthusiastically explains that it's fun to take photos of various places and meet new people. However, the idea of meeting lots of people makes Sino grimace, which confuses Kiyomiya. She tells him she thinks he would enjoy joining if he has even a little bit of interest. Sino is left speechless, unable to respond. Sino stands silently before Kiyomiya and Guda. He apologizes and asks for some time to think, later berating himself for his response. Sino sits alone, wondering why he hesitated even though he thought the club seemed nice. He watches a group of cheerful students walk by with tennis rackets. He clenches his fists in frustration, admitting to himself that he's just being a coward. He acknowledges that he is scared of trying new things. Despite his fear, he truly wants to change. He feels pathetic about his inability to take the first step. A rustling sound from the bushes catches Sino's attention. He sees a calico cat walking out from behind the foliage. Sino watches the cat curiously. The cat looks back at him. The cat rolls around playfully and Sino snaps a photo. As the cat dashes away, Sino wonders if it lives in the area. Suddenly, Nekazane appears behind him, asking about the cat. Nekazane explains that she sensed a cat was nearby. She asks if the picture he took is of the cat, and he confirms it is, though it just ran off. She asks to see the photo and leans in close to his phone. They look at the photo together, and Sino confirms it's the same calico cat they've seen before. Nekazane asks if he takes a lot of photos, and he replies that he only takes one once in a while. She asks what kind of pictures he takes. He explains that he hasn't taken anything special, mostly just food and landscapes. Sino is confused by Nekazane's sudden interest. After looking through his photos, Nekazane tells him that he's very good at taking pictures. A surprised Sino asks if she really thinks so, and she confirms it. Nekazane complains that her photos usually end up blurry, and Sino suggests it might be an issue with her fast-moving subjects. Sino compliments her Rhine icon, saying it's a beautiful photo and that he initially thought it was a stock image. After a moment of staring, she says she just took it on a whim. Nekazane looks at Sino's phone and tells him with sincerity that she really likes the photos he takes. Sino is completely taken aback by her words. Overwhelmed by his own impulsive decision, Sino crouches outside in disbelief. Back in the club room, his registration form for the photography club is accepted. Kiyomiya expresses her relief that he decided to join, noting that he seemed hesitant before. When asked why he decided to join, Sino explains that someone's compliment on his photos encouraged him to give it a try. He admits that he knows nothing about using a camera, thinking it's a simple reason. Kiyomiya immediately refutes his self-deprecation. She tells him that being happy about praise or thinking something seems fun are excellent reasons to start a new hobby. She finishes by saying that most of all, they are simply glad to have him in the club. Kiyomiya reassures Sino by saying she also knew nothing at first and that Guda was even in the judo club before. She then asks if there's anyone else he could invite to join. Sino thinks of Nekazane, but explains that it might be difficult for that person to join, prompting his new club members to ask if it's a guy friend. Sino clarifies that the person is a girl, adding that while they aren't friends yet, he really wants to be. Kiyomiya excitedly realizes that Sino's feelings are not about friendship, but about love. Before she can shout it, Guda covers her mouth, asking why she's being stopped. Sino, with his clear and sparkly eyes, is completely oblivious to their realization. Kiyomiya is excited by the romantic development and wants to tell Sino. Guda leans in and tells her that it will be much more entertaining if she keeps it a secret from him. Kiyomiya is struck by his mischievous suggestion. Kiyomiya shakes Sino's hands, officially welcoming him to the club and promising a fun time, while Guda apologizes for her antics. Meanwhile, Nekazane is approached by a cat, but laments that she doesn't have any treats for it. Kiyomiya remarks on how different things look through a camera lens. Sino internally questions his ability to use a high-tech camera. To demonstrate its capabilities, Kiyomiya takes a high-definition photo of Guda, who asks her to stop. Kiyomiya tells Sino that he will get used to the camera the more he uses it. Sino experiments with the camera, learning how to create a bokeh effect. With a bright smile, Kiyomiya asks Sino if he is ready for his first photography club assignment. Sino sits at his desk at home, pondering his task. He recalls Kiyomiya's instructions to photograph things he likes by the next club meeting. He feels his current photos are dull and debates whether the problem is his technique or his choice of subject. He reflects that while he enjoys reading and gaming, he doesn't feel a strong, vocal passion for them. Overwhelmed, Sino buries his face in his hands, feeling that he understands less the more he contemplates the assignment. Nekazane quietly wonders to herself what things she really likes. She shows Sino a photo on her phone of her cat from the day before. Sino laughs, remarking that he often sees her cat sleeping in that position. He looks at her and thinks about how clear her likes are compared to his own. Nekazane senses something is on his mind and asks what is wrong, catching him off guard. He confesses that he is having trouble with his photography club assignment. Nekazane proposes taking photos of cats as a subject. She asks if he'd like to try it and he agrees. Sino is surprised to find himself standing in front of a cat cafe. Sino expresses concern about intruding while she's working, but Nekazane tells him it's okay. He remembers Kiyomiya graciously lending him the camera. However, his calm is shattered by the memory of her warning about its high price, causing him to tremble. As Nekazane welcomes him, Sino is preoccupied with the immense pressure of not damaging the camera. He snaps a photo of the first cat he sees. Nekazane asks to see the photo, and Sino thinks it turned out well. Her eyes sparkle as she looks at the image, calling it amazing. She marvels at the clarity of the fur, and a flustered Sino can only agree. A cat shows interest in the camera, sniffing it curiously. Nekazane stares intently from beside him. She leans in close with a toy, making Sino stiffen with anxiety and blush from her closeness. Sino internally admits that taking this picture is difficult for multiple reasons. Nekazane quietly reaches over his shoulder. The cat runs off and she expresses her disappointment. He asks if anything is the matter, but she tells him it's nothing. Sino has a moment of realization, thinking that this is actually fun. He's jolted back to reality, remembering he completely forgot about the assignment. Nekazane offers him a drink and asks about his pictures. Nekazane asks about the club assignment and Sino confesses he hasn't done it yet despite taking many photos. He confirms the theme is about things he likes. He shares his uncertainty about whether to prioritize aesthetics or personal meaning. After listening, Nekazane bluntly tells Sino he's a very serious person, which catches him by surprise. She adds that he might be overthinking it, and he concedes that she has a point. Nekazane lifts a cat towards his face. She explains her belief that being around cats solves problems, leaving him to question if it's really that simple. Sino relaxes with a cat on his lap, wondering if this is cat therapy. Nekazane chuckles at his expression. He admits that he's grown to like cats as much as dogs. Nekazane moves closer, highlighting that he just admitted to liking them. Nekazane states that he now has something he likes, but Sino protests it was just a whim. He asks if there's something wrong with that. She tells him it's not wrong. Nekazane smiles and reassures him that everything is fine now. Sino is left speechless by her statement. He realizes he didn't need to overthink his assignment so much. He contrasts his night of worry with how easily she resolved his issue. He acknowledges to himself how much Nekazane has been helping him. He begins to question his failings. He wonders why he feels this way specifically when he's with Nekazane. His heart thumps loudly in his chest. Nekazane asks if she can take pictures too, startling Sino into a flustered agreement. She takes the camera from him. Sino internally apologizes for his brief loss of composure. She immediately starts taking pictures of a cat's feet. Nekazane is absorbed in her photography. Suddenly, a cat climbs up onto Sino's back. She turns her attention and the camera to him. Nekazane focuses her lens and captures a candid shot of a surprised Sino with the cat perched on his back. Kiyomiya is impressed by one of Sino's photos. She compliments his shot of the scenery on his way home. Sino explains that he came to realize there are many things he likes. Kiyomiya says she's glad he's able to enjoy taking photos now. She notices a cute cat photo among his pictures. The scene shifts to Sino arriving at the club room. While looking at his camera, Kiyomiya spots something that piques her interest. Guda asks Kiyomiya about her grin, but she deflects. She claims to have found something interesting, but when asked what, she says it's nothing, all while looking at the photo of Sino. In a hot classroom, Minato Sino listens as his teacher announces that final exams are just a week away. The news about the end of the term startles him, bringing the pressure of the upcoming tests into sharp focus. Sino glances over at Mugi Nekazane, worried that she might fail since she's usually asleep in class. He is completely taken aback to see that she is wide awake. He's even more astonished to see her diligently taking notes. Sino asks Nekazane about her notes. She explains that she's cramming to avoid makeup classes that would interfere with her part-time job. Before they knew it, the summer holiday arrived. The sound of cicadas marks the peak of summer. Lying on his bed, Sino contemplates his lack of plans for the vacation. He thinks of Nekazane, assuming she's busy with work. He feels a bit lonely by comparison. His thoughts are interrupted by a notification on his phone. He quickly sits up to check it. The message is from his friend Takada. Takada sends a photo showing he caught a huge octopus. Sino wryly notes that his friend seems to be having fun. He decides to study instead, but another notification chimes. Assuming it's Takada again, he glances at the screen and is surprised by what he sees. Sino arrives at a bustling festival where Kiyomiya calls him over to a yakisoba stall. She introduces him to her grandfather as the help for the day. The owner gives him a rough but friendly welcome. Kiyomiya explains they were suddenly short on help. Kiyomiya quietly informs him that Guda is just there on a date with his girlfriend. Sino's quiet voice earns him a scolding from the owner for not being loud enough with the customers. Feeling the heat, Sino takes a brief break. The stall owner gets his attention, expressing his apologies. He gives Sino a container of yakisoba, a drink, and a voucher as thanks. The owner tells him he deserves it for working tirelessly. The owner thanks Sino again for his help, despite his quiet nature. Sino finds a stool to sit on and finally get a chance to eat. He looks at his reward, feeling that the work was tiring but worth it. He smiles, feeling genuinely glad that he came to help. He enjoys the tasty yakisoba. As he enjoys his meal, a familiar voice suddenly calls his name. He looks up to see Mugi Nekazane, dressed in a beautiful yukata, standing amidst the festival lights. Startled, Sino greets Mugi while still chewing his food. Her friend Momoka also expresses surprise at seeing him there. Mugi leans in close to ask if he came to the festival. A flustered Sino explains he's helping at one of the stalls. Momoka silently fumes that Sino didn't compliment Mugi's yukata, which she had picked out for her. Sino notices Mugi is carrying a goldfish. Mugi jokingly claims it's a souvenir for her cat before revealing she's kidding, leaving Sino utterly confused. As the fireworks are about to start, Momoka hurries Mugi along to find a good spot. Mugi waves goodbye to Sino. Sino waves back as she leaves. Kiyomiya watches him with a knowing smirk. Kiyomiya playfully teases Sino, having figured out that Mugi is the girl he likes. She compliments Mugi on being super cute. She enthusiastically encourages him to go watch the fireworks with her. Kiyomiya offers to cover the stall for him so he can get closer to her. Sino hesitates, explaining that since he wasn't invited, he would feel bad about getting in their way. The first firework explodes in the sky. Sino notes that the fireworks are starting. Kiyomiya looks at Sino and calls him a nice kid. She continues, praising him for being considerate and hardworking. As they watch the display, Kiyomiya tells Sino that because he's so serious and kind, he seems to be missing out on a lot of things in life. Mugi is caught in a dense crowd, noting that the fireworks have already started. She looks around for a place they can sit. Spotting a less crowded area, she points it out to Momoka. Mugi turns to lead the way. She discovers that Momoka is no longer with her and calls out her name, suddenly lost and alone. He recalls Kiyomiya's comment during the fireworks display that he seems to be missing out on a lot. Walking alone through the festival grounds, Sino wonders what she could have meant by that. Kiyomiya announces that it is time to start cleaning. Just then, Sino spots Mugi standing by herself. He approaches her, calling her name to get her attention. Sino asks about Momoka, but Mugi says she has not seen her and asks what is wrong. Mugi explains that she got separated from Momoka and spent the fireworks display searching for her. She adds that she could not get in touch because the signal was bad. Sino offers to help look for her as well. Suddenly, Mugi gets a call. She answers her phone, hoping it is her friend. Momoka's worried voice comes through the phone, asking if Mugi is all right. Mugi tells her she is fine and that Sino is now with her. Mugi asks about her friend's well-being, and Momoka replies that she is just sitting down to rest. Momoka decides it will be too hard to meet up in the crowd. She tells Sino to make sure he gets Mugi home safely, and he agrees. The call ends, and Sino is relieved to know Momoka is okay. Sino tells his senpai that he is going to walk Nekazane home. Kiyomiya stops him to give him something as thanks for his help. She hands him a fireworks set designed for 2 people. Kiyomiya smiles and tells Sino that she thinks he can be more greedy. Her advice leaves him looking puzzled. While walking, Sino mulls over what Kiyomiya meant by telling him to be greedy. Mugi notices he is distracted and asks if he is okay. He apologizes and asks if her legs are tired, but she says she is fine. She notices the casella he bought and learns it is a souvenir for the cafe owner. Mugi jokes that the souvenir is not for her cat, Masamune. Sino says he is glad she had fun at the festival. Mugi agrees but admits she is disappointed she did not get to see the fireworks. As they walk, Mugi tells him her house is just around the corner. Sino thinks to himself that it is almost time to say goodbye, but he does not want to yet. An idea begins to form in his mind. He recalls Kiyomiya's words and wonders why he does not want to go home, until Mugi calls his name. Sino realizes that he simply wants to spend more time with Nekazane. He takes out the fireworks set he received and presents it to her. Sino tells her the fireworks are for her and Yuzujihara. He recalls that she mentioned being tired from walking during their phone call. He assumes that Yuzujihara also missed the fireworks while looking for Mugi. He suggests that the two girls should use the fireworks together. He asks if she is sure about accepting them. Sino smiles and confirms his offer. Mugi reaches out to take the fireworks set from him. Mugi gently places her hand on his arm to stop him. She asks if he has a moment. She leads him up a flight of stairs through a wooded area. Sino asks where they are going, and Mugi replies that it is just up ahead. Mugi fans herself, remarking that it is hot. They reach a spot with a beautiful view of the festival and town below. Mugi observes that no one else is there, just as she expected. They sit on a park bench, and Sino notes that it is getting chilly. Sino had no idea this place existed, and Mugi explains that it is a hidden gem she visits because it is not crowded. She explains that she likes the spot because she can zone out and forget about time. She adds that the best part is when she is lucky enough to see a ginger tabby and a tortoiseshell cat. She notes it is too bad the cats are not there, and Sino remarks that the place is very much like her. He confesses that he also enjoys quiet places like this. Mugi smiles and says that makes them the same. Sino then asks Mugi why she brought him to this spot. She pauses, wondering about the reason herself. She explains that she just wanted him to know about the place. Mugi adds that she thought they could take a little detour together. Her answer leaves Sino stunned. Mugi looks off into the distance, lost in thought. She then turns her gaze towards Sino. Looking out at the sparkling city lights, Mugi admits again that she is not entirely sure why she brought him, then turns to face him with a radiant smile. In the quiet of the night, Sino feels his heart race. He thinks to himself that the sound of his own heartbeat seems oddly loud. In the photography club room, Minato Sino sits dazed, lost in thought. His reverie is broken when his upperclassman Kiyomiya startles him. She asks if he's already missing summer break, but Sino apologizes, explaining he was just thinking. Sino finds that for some reason, he can't get Mugi Nekazane's face out of his head, recalling the look she had during the festival. Suddenly, Kiyomiya gets a bright idea, to invite Nekazane to join their club. The suggestion surprises Sino and another club member. Sino confirms Nekazane is his classmate, but mentions that she seems to be quite busy. Kiyomiya pushes Sino, insisting that being in the same club would give him more opportunities to talk to her. She suggests they might find her in cooler or less crowded spots. Deciding to take on the recruitment mission, Sino sets out to find her. Meanwhile, Mugi is in the school hallway when Kiyomiya calls out to her. She approaches, introducing herself as a second year and confirming Mugi's identity. With a brilliant smile, Kiyomiya asks if Mugi is interested in the photography club. Mugi gives a blunt, one-word refusal. She immediately walks away, leaving Kiyomiya standing alone. Kiyomiya slides in front of Mugi, urging her not to decide so quickly. Mugi explains she just wants to go to the vending machine. Kiyomiya persists, offering perks like a free camera, snacks, and even a photo of a club member's muscles. Later, Kiyomiya recounts her failure to Sino, explaining how she was harshly rejected. She explains that she has been trying to talk to her every day since, but keeps getting the cold shoulder. Despite this, Kiyomiya declares she isn't backing down and plans to try again. Sino asks why she's so fixated on recruiting Nekazane specifically. Kiyomiya excitedly gives her reason: she finds Nekazane interesting. Kiyomiya explains that she's drawn to Mugi because she seems to be her complete opposite. Elsewhere, Mugi sits on a bench, looking at her phone. A small smile graces her lips as she reads a text message. Kiyomiya finds Mugi again, cheerfully announcing her presence. Mugi, visibly annoyed, thinks about how obvious Kiyomiya is making her unwanted presence. She tries to leave, but Kiyomiya stops her, asking to talk for a bit. Kiyomiya tries to get Mugi's attention by offering her juice, which is met with a flat refusal. She then offers weird gummies, but Mugi rejects them as well. Finally, she shows Mugi a picture of her uncle's cat on her phone. This at last elicits a reaction from Mugi. Mugi comments on the cat's uniquely colored paw pads, and Kiyomiya agrees it's cute. When Kiyomiya mentions Sino is in the club, Mugi's interest is piqued. She asks if he used to wear glasses. Mugi explains that she could tell because of the subtle gesture he makes as if adjusting glasses that aren't there. She further observes his habit of carrying his bag with his right hand and his slightly hunched posture. Mugi ponders that he may not be very confident in himself. Kiyomiya notes how observant Mugi is. Mugi admits that she likes him. She quickly clarifies that she doesn't mean Sino specifically. She explains that she just likes people in general. Mugi elaborates, explaining her belief that there's always a reason a person is the way they are. She believes people are shaped by their past experiences, environment, and relationships. She finds herself constantly wondering about the stories behind people's personalities. Leaning in close, Kiyomiya turns Mugi's philosophy back on her, wondering why Mugi herself is so uninterested in others. Mugi slaps Kiyomiya's hand away, embarrassed. At that moment, she spots Sino walking by. She confirms her observation, noting that he is indeed holding his bag with his right hand. Kiyomiya smirks her. She realizes that Mugi is not aware of her own keen interest in Sino. Kiyomiya says she won't force Mugi to join the club, but asks if they could just hang out and chat from time to time. She expresses that she would really like to talk to her more. Mugi, calling her persistent, bluntly refuses again. She gets up to leave. Just as Mugi is leaving, Kiyomiya stops her with a final offer, a look at the cat pictures Sino brought to the clubroom. The bait works and Mugi follows her. They arrive just as Sino enters, who is surprised to see Nekazane in the clubroom. Sino wonders if the two have become friends. Kiyomiya suddenly grabs Mugi from behind and playfully tugs at her skirt. She exclaims that it's too short and must be against the rules, flustering Sino. While Mugi tells Kiyomiya to let go, Sino weakly asks his senior not to go overboard. He then makes a quick, claw-like gesture with his hand. The gesture causes Mugi to instinctively cover her face. Mugi is left completely flustered, her face covered by her hands as a deep blush spreads across her cheeks. Sino looks on, also taken aback by her reaction. Sino blushes as well, realizing the unexpected effect he had on her. Kiyomiya apologizes for making things awkward. Her antics earn her a serious scolding from another club member. Minato Sino looks on with a confused expression. He wonders to himself where she could have gone. The teacher announces that they are starting class. The teacher states that Nekazane is the only one absent. Sino sits at his desk listening. His gaze falls upon her empty desk. He types a message on his phone. He grows anxious, wondering if it is okay for him to send such a message. His phone dings, signaling a new message has arrived. He reads the alarming messages from Nekazane. His imagination runs wild with concern, leaving him with a look of horror. Sino slams the door open, shouting for the teacher. He claims to be feeling unwell and asks to go home. The teacher believes him, while Sino is racked with guilt for his deception. He makes his way to the rescue cat Cafe Mew. He frets that he is unable to reach her by phone. Iri Kawasaki greets the flustered Sino as he enters. Panicked, Sino exclaims that he needs to confirm Nekazane's safety. Iri asks him to calm down first, but he protests. He insists that they need to hurry. Iri calmly covers his eyes with her hand. She explains that covering a cat's eyes helps with anxiety. She gently asks if the technique is working and if he feels calmer. Sino confirms that he has calmed down. He apologizes for his behavior and she reassures him. He explains that Nekazane sent him a concerning message. After seeing the message, Iri seems amused. Iri tells him not to worry and to just wait for Mugi's return. Sino waits patiently in the cat-filled room. She brings him a drink and asks if he likes sweets. She offers him a delicious manju. Sino reaches out to accept the treat. A cat lunges for the sweet, but Iri quickly blocks it, jolting Sino. Sino is stunned that she stopped the cat moving at such a high speed. She formally introduces herself as Iri Kawasaki, the cafe's owner. Sino theorizes that Iri must be the one who influenced Nekazane's mindset. After Iri asks who he is, Sino introduces himself. Iri asks about Mugi's conduct at school. Sino gives a flustered but positive response about Mugi's behavior. Sino looks around the cafe. He notices a peculiar drawing on a poster. Eri asks if he thinks the poster is cute. She explains that Mugi made the poster by hand. Eri says that Mugi also helps out whenever she is busy. She adds that Mugi actively cares for the cats. Eri concludes that Mugi is a great help, and Sino listens intently. Mugi arrives and is surprised to see Sino, who immediately rushes to check on her. Sino shows Mugi the message that caused his panic. Mugi explains that she accidentally sent the message, which was about her cat, to him instead of Eri. Deeply embarrassed, Sino apologizes for the misunderstanding. Eri is relieved to hear that Kanako is fine. She decides to step out for a bit. Sino and Mugi stand alone in the room. Mugi explains that she missed school because she had to take her sick cat to the vet. Mugi explains that she went in Eri's place since she was also worried about her cat. Sino recalls Eri mentioning how much of a help Mugi is. He concludes that despite her quiet demeanor, she is a very kind person. Sino says he thinks the owner seems like a kind person. Mugi agrees, saying Eri has helped her a great deal. Mugi's sudden question about class startles Sino. He admits that he faked being sick to get out of class. He confesses that he panicked because he was worried something bad had happened to her. Mugi quietly takes in his explanation. Sino hopes that his actions will not make people suspicious of him. Mugi teases him by calling him a delinquent, and he apologizes. Eri watches them with a knowing and happy expression. She thinks to herself that she understands their situation now. Eri calls out to Sino. She starts to talk about Mugi. Sino starts to respond but then says it is nothing. Eri asks him to please continue to get along with Mugi. Sino enthusiastically agrees. Mugi asks if he was called, and Eri quickly provides an excuse for their conversation. The teacher announces that the sports festival is just 2 weeks away, sending a wave of excitement through the students. As the teacher explains they will be busy with preparations, Mugi Nekazane sleeps soundly at her desk. Minato Sino listens, as the teacher encourages everyone to do their best to make it a great event. A student representative instructs the class to sign up for the events they wish to participate in. Seeing the crowd around the sign-up sheet, Sino decides to write his name down later. Beside him, Mugi lets out a groan as she finally wakes up from her nap. Sino turns to Mugi and tells her that she also needs to sign up for the sports festival. Mugi looks thoroughly unenthusiastic, and Sino notes that her face clearly says what a pain this is. She turns to Sino and asks him which of the events he is going to pick. Sino imagines the chaos of the cavalry battle with a sense of dread. He also pictures the relay race, which seems just as stressful. Sino admits he'd prefer an event where he can make it back alive, deciding against the cavalry battle. Mugi agrees, adding that she's not very fast and would also like something without running. Thinking for a moment, Mugi suggests they both sign up for the ball toss. Sino and Mugi look at each other, having found an event they can agree on. Mugi smiles, pleased that they will be in the same event. However, the class representative announces that each person must participate in at least 3 events. Sino cheerfully notes that it looks like they will have to run after all, which earns a groan of displeasure from Mugi. As he watches Mugi yawn, Sino thinks to himself that she seems to be smiling much more than before. He feels that she has changed a lot since the first time they spoke. The realization brings a gentle smile to his face. Mugi resolves to do her best at the sports festival. Later that day, after the preparations have wrapped up, Sino gets ready to head home. As he is about to leave, he spots Mugi talking with Kiyomiya and another classmate. Kiyomiya approaches Mugi, pointing out that since they're in the same group, it's a good chance to talk. She explains that her friend has been curious about Mugi for a while. The friend shyly admits she's heard about the cute girl who sleeps a lot. The classmate expresses her excitement about being in the same group and tries to start a friendly conversation. However, Mugi cuts her off with a simple apology and walks away, leaving the 2 girls stunned. Mugi excuses herself by saying she has something to do. The 2 girls look on, surprised but seemingly understanding. Sino, having witnessed the entire exchange, is left puzzled. While studying, Sino recalls Mugi's abrupt departure and assumes she turned her classmates down because of her part-time job. Despite this logical explanation, he finds himself questioning why he is so bothered by it. Sino's mother knocks on his door, asking him to go buy some eggs from the convenience store. He agrees and she thanks him, promising his favorite hamburgers for dinner. He heads out to the nearby Tona Mart. Inside, he begins searching the aisles for eggs. He quickly spots them in the refrigerated section. Just as Sino reaches for a carton of eggs, a woman reaches for the same one. He politely lets her take it and she thanks him. As he turns to leave, the woman calls out his name. Seeing his confusion, she apologizes and assumes he can't recognize her in her current outfit. The woman reveals herself to be Iri, the owner of the cat cafe, leaving Sino utterly shocked. Iri explains that she has another job at night, and this is her outfit for it. She playfully notes that Sino looks different too, lifting his glasses for a moment. She asks if he is okay being out so late, but he confirms his house is just over there. Iri casually mentions that Mugi is at the cafe right now, which startles Sino. She thanks him for the eggs and offers to buy him a drink in return. Sino opts for a simple bottle of refined green tea. Outside the store, Iri thanks him for treating her. Sino then brings up the topic of her other job. Iri cheerfully explains it's a job where she drinks and chats with customers. Sino becomes flustered by her description of the job. Iri points to the sign for a snack bar called Cats and Night and reassures him it's a perfectly fine job. Sino then asks if it is difficult to juggle multiple jobs. Iri asks Sino if he has any pets at home. He tells her that he does not have any. She explains that she has cats, and although they can't communicate with words, their love is always returned, making them truly adorable. However, she adds that there are many problems that cannot be solved by their cuteness alone. Iri solemnly states that owning a pet means taking responsibility for its life. She admits with some embarrassment that the cafe's business is not thriving, so she juggles multiple jobs to make up for it. Sino apologizes for asking such an irresponsible question, but she reassures him that it is fine. Iri reveals that more than her own situation, she is worried about Mugi right now. This revelation catches Sino completely by surprise. He asks why she is worried about Nekazane. Nekazane-san